Failure, mistakes, and the unknown are all beautiful, beautiful things. However, you may not think so, and you may have been told that it's not. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to episode 74 of the Positivity Experience. Failure, mistakes, and the unknown are a beautiful place to be. Check it out. Welcome to episode 74 of the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori. Here in the States, this is Memorial Day weekend. And anywhere else in the world, it is your Saturday. Well, I'm recording on a Saturday, so it'll be your Sunday or any other day that you're listening to this on. But yeah, I just wanted to say, hey, happy Memorial Day, which is here in the States is the official launch of summer season. So we are approaching the summer season. I do have a lot of travel and different things coming up. I'm officiating a wedding. I do that as well. I get to officiate things for a client who's been a client for quite some time, and it's going to be a really big wedding. So I'm the officiate. So I want to try to get as many podcasts sort of like booked, like done and recorded and edited, because I don't just have this podcast, I have the Patreon. So the Patreon is the paid version. The $10 or $20 tier gets you kind of the tools and the workbook to this podcast, right? And so I want to try to get those all lined up before I go. And I have not been doing that. So this is the day before you're going to hear this or when it goes live. And that's because I realize that when, I'm not failing at it or I'm not making a mistake by not getting it done as adequately as I wanted to, I just know that just means I need to pivot a little bit and I need to reevaluate. And this is an important factor, right? Because failure and mistakes and the unknown is such a beautiful thing. And that's really why I really wanted to do this. And I'm going to highlight one of our lovely Patreon members, Jen Spicer. Jen, love you. And I think Jen is in Canada, which is even better. Sorry, she's always going to get a little bit of extra love. I'm not Canadian, but I love Canada. Viva la Canada, right? But I am going to highlight her. I had posted in the Patreon, in the $20 tier, you get to be a part of this Facebook group. And I posted which topic would they want to hear. I gave them an assortment. And then under there, I said, listen, let me know some things that you're struggling with, because I want to be able to highlight some of your struggles too. So Jen Spicer is going to be my highlighted Patreon this week. But it is something that I want you to really understand, because when you are hearing fear is a big thing, but failure and mistakes and the unknown, there's the root cause of fear. And fear is not a real place. Fear is false evidence appearing real. It feels real. It's fake. Your fear is taking you on a detour of your destination, right? Your fear is like, oh my God, what if? Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I want to break them down into mistakes and, failure and mistakes. They basically go hand in hand. But failure can seem more intense, and a mistake could be like, I made a mistake, right? And then the unknown is a little bit of a different bear that I love so much. And that goes into control and ego. So we're going to cover all three of those today. And then if you're in the Patreon, I'm going to give you a really good exercise to help unbox some of that, okay? And if you want to consider being a Patreon, you absolutely can. The link is in the show notes, which is the description of this podcast. It'll take you right out to the website where you could hit it directly from there if you choose, or you can go on patreon.com/Lori Wheeler and it takes you right to me. So here we go. So the biggest thing about fear in general is it's triggered by your experiences, right? That's fear in any realm, not just failure. It's triggered by your experiences and what the repercussions were as a child or another time if, something didn't go right or whatever. If you failed at something, if you didn't do something right, you got in trouble, you got beat, you got yelled at, you got ostracized, you got called stupid, you got called being an idiot, right? Know that that's not your stuff to carry. Now, listen, as a young child, you're not going to be like, oh, that's not my stuff. It's just not going to happen, right? So and this is also where the people pleasing comes in. If you're fearing failure and mistakes, you have perfectionism. And perfectionism is always rooted in insecurity. Perfectionism, there's not a gold standard. When you're born here on this planet, you're not given this life book. And it goes, okay, see this right here? This is perfection, and this is what you're striving for. Because your version of perfect and my version of perfect might be totally different. My version of perfect is like a nice late September, early October day. I don't really camp, but I'm planning on doing it this fall in a tent and everything and sitting out by the fire in the woods, looking at nature. That's perfect to me. That may not be perfect for you. You might be like, oh my God, I don't want to do that. Okay, doesn't make me wrong for thinking that's perfect. So, but my point to that is it goes the same with all of your actions, right? So let's say you were raised in a house that was pretty strict. Let's say, you were expected to go to college, get your PhD, start your own doctor, be a doctor, right? And this was something that your parents wanted for you. So now they're inflicting their own belief system onto you early on, right? And now you go to school, you're in high school, and you're like, I want to do hair. That's what I want to do. I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a cosmetologist. Okay? And then you go, oh God, but I can't. Oh, are you kidding me? My mom and dad would be mortified. I'd be the biggest failure in their eyes. Okay, pause right there. Why the hell would you put your life on hold for these people? This isn't their life to rock. Okay, so then, this is like a fictitious thing, but it's not really fictitious because I know it exists somewhere. Now you say, listen, I really don't want to be a doctor. That's fine. I'll go to college. I'll get my business degree. It'll help me in my own cosmetology practice. That's fine. That's fine. Maybe not. Maybe you don't go to college. Maybe you just go straight to cosmetology and that's it. That's fine. That's not a failure. That's not a failure. So now your parents go, I can't believe this. You are a disappointment. Man, you're such a disappointment to me. Okay. Now you immediately are going, well, I don't want you to, but you're immediately going to take that on as like, I'm not good. I'm not worthy because I didn't become a doctor or go to doctor school, medical school. I didn't do this like my parents wanted me to, and I really don't want them to be disappointed. Well, now we are already setting up a pattern here of people pleasing. This is where, and now let's say you go, oh my God, I really want to do hair, but fine. I'll go become a doctor. Well, now you don't want to do it in the first damn place. Now in medical school, and trust me, I know I have doctor friends, I have doctor clients. Medical school's hard, by the way. And if you're really not committed, you're not going to do good there because it sucks at times. They said, and I mean, even just the human studies that I've done, sometimes it can be very drawn out and boring if you're not into it. I'm into it, but I might give it to somebody else and they might be like, oh my God, this is awful. Right? So now you go through that. Now you're starting to have anxiety attacks. You're starting to get upset. You feel like even more of a failure because now that you're going to be a doctor, now you feel like you can't be a good doctor because you can't pass, biology. And now you're annoyed because you're a failure. You're letting people down. You feel stupid when all of this could have been prevented by holding onto your grounds. You have to be willing to make people disappointed because it's not your journey to carry. Now, this is also burden to carry. This is also pertaining to you. So let's say you're someone who had it rough, like, had a rough life, and all of a sudden now you're trying to inflict them not getting that onto them. And you really want this to happen and that to happen and this to, okay, stay in your lane because stop it. Listen, I'm a mom, right? I'm a mom. I got 3 kids. I'm a mom. I have a 28-year-old, 26-year-old, and a 15-year-old, right? I am a mother. But their journey, their journey is their journey. It doesn't matter. Like, I personally just want them to be happy. Do you? I don't care what you're doing. I don't care if you're picking flowers and selling them in Costa Rica. That's fine. Do what makes you happy because it's not about me. See, when people inflict what they want you to do, it's always rooted in ego. Always. Rooted in ego, insecurities, their own fears. Right? So let's go back to this scenario. Let's rewind that time. Now let's go back. You're still in 10th grade. You've decided you're doing cosmetology. Mom and dad are super mad at you. And here's the deal. It's not really that they're mad at you. This is where their egos come into play because they don't want their friends whose kids are going to become doctors and lawyers and whatever this big thing is that they think in their head. So they don't want to be embarrassed. Okay, well, let them rock with that. Let them rock with that. You are not obligated to these people in your life, including your parents, to make them happy. You are not obligated. You can't be a failure, right? Because there's a couple different ways of looking at failure. We're going to unbox them. You can't be a failure when you're holding your own boundaries and you're following whatever passion it is that you want. And you don't have to know what it is. You might say, yeah, okay, maybe I'll be a cosmetologist. And you go, that's not really my jam. Next thing you know, you're selling magazines door to door. Well, it's not really a thing anymore, but let's say you are. And you're like, wow, I really like this. Maybe I'll do something in magazine. You're allowed that. There's no such thing as having a purpose. So stop seeking that. Because if you try to seek that, you're going to always feel like a failure. Your purpose changes frequently. Right? Like, so if I do a hierarchy umbrella of my business, right? It's all about empowerment. So let's say that's the top, right? That's my thing. And I'll talk about this more in the Patreon episode, but I'll tell you how to start differentiating where your purpose is and different things like that. Not just your purpose, but your purposes and how to not worry about disappointment. Because here's the thing, you're also going to be disappointed in life by people, by things, by situations, and it's your stuff to process. It's not the people who you feel are disappointing you to fix it for you. And if you stop with the expectations of self and other people, you're not going to worry about failing. Okay? So now let's say, let's switch topics a little bit with this fail and why failure is beautiful. Let's say you set out to start your own business. And I mean, you're really all in. You're like all in. You got your LLC, you've got your tax, you're really going well. And I mean, you're going kind of well, and you know that the first 2 to 3 years, you're not really going to make a big profit. Like it's really going to be a lot of work, hard work, 18, 20-hour days sometimes, right? So when that's happening, you're seeing yourself and you're like, okay, there really isn't a payoff here. Like, I don't mean like you've just given it up after 6 months. Like you really see, like, I can't, like, this is just too much for me, right? It's like too much financially, it's too much mentally. And so you close up the business. That is not a failure. If you deem that as a failure, that's all your perception. It's not a failure. It's telling you that that's not your journey. See, if you can change that mindset, this is that negative mindset to the positive mindset. If you can switch your negative mind, and you can, not if, when you allow yourself to switch that negative mindset, because by the way, that's somebody else's voice. Let's say it was your best friend. Let's say it was your sister. Let's say it was your dad, whatever, who said, I don't know. Do you really think that's smart? I don't know. Do you think there's a place for that? This is why you don't tell people things. You don't have to tell everybody everything. That's a hard pass on that, right? And so you have to understand that you're not failing at things. Your relationship ends. You're in a marriage for 23 years. Something happens, you cheat, they cheat, you just grow apart. It doesn't have to be super dramatic, and you end the relationship. That is not a failure. That's an enjoyment. And I'm saying even if they're ending it, you're not allowing yourself to have that joy from it. Of course not. You're a human. You've been with this person for years. You're allowed to be angry and sad, but you're allowed to process it. But when you look at it and you view it as joy, because now this person has freed themselves up and freed you up to move forward with your life. If you've become so codependent in those 25 years, it's going to be hard for you. Like forever hard, right? But if you allow yourself to process your feelings, and you can go back to last week's episode or 2 weeks ago on feeling your feelings, then it allows you to process that. But you're not a failure if you don't go to school to be a doctor. You're not a failure if your relationship doesn't work. You're not a failure if the business doesn't go well. You're not a failure for anything. So, but you know what? It does allow you to pivot and turn. It's the same thing as mistakes. So think of failure as learning and mistakes as lessons, right? So now let's say it's not as dramatic. You're not like failing at anything, but you get this new job. And in this new job, like, I don't know, like you got an accountant degree. You're like, damn, I'm really good here. Well, you start this new job, and it doesn't matter how good you are, because you know what, any job that you have, even if you're working for yourself, you're going to have to constantly like reconfigure how you're doing things, or, learn what their new software is. It doesn't matter. It's not like you just get this degree and then it's like a blanket thing. So you go into this company pretty confident. Let's say, sometimes you're not, but let's say you went in pretty confident and you start seeing this software and you're like, oh my God, I've never seen this software before. Now you start getting in your headspace. Now you're like, oh shit, there's a little bit of imposter syndrome coming in. I know I have my degree, or maybe you don't. It's fine. But you're like, oh my God, can I really do this? Of course you can do this. Because you're not supposed to know everything out the box. You're not supposed to go on the tennis court if you've never been on the tennis court and become Serena Williams. Hell no, you're not. You're supposed to fail. You're supposed to fall. You're supposed to break rackets. There's a whole plethora of things. And that is your lack of patience and this weird, outrageous expectation that you have on yourself that you're just supposed to kill everything from the door. Like, boom, here I am. No, you're not. It's kind of like I said, on a much smaller scale, I'm trying to be at least 2 months ahead, at least a month ahead on these podcasts. I'm not, right? I'm literally recording this the day before this goes live. So I know that while I said I was going to do this by Memorial Day, clearly I didn't fail at it, or I didn't make a mistake by telling myself this. What I did was clearly somewhere along the line, I didn't stick to my schedule and I didn't fail at it. I just have to look and pivot and go, okay, what do I need to work on now to try to get this done before I leave, for some travel in like 2 weeks. I'm doing a wedding to officiate that wedding. Well, I'm going to be gone that weekend. And then after that, I'm in LA. And that's 2 or 3 weekends that I'm not going to be behind this computer to record. That's like 2 weeks away. So I know I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to stress it. I'm just going to reevaluate, look where I can plunk them in, and then that's what I'm going to do. But I didn't fail at it. So your version of failure isn't even your version of failure and mistakes. Those are your parents or society. And stay off of social media and thinking that everybody on there has it together. They do not. If you follow my like official Lori Wheeler Instagram, or if you follow my stuff, I keep it real. I keep it super real. I'm not going to be the person who's like, oh my God, look how perfect my life is. Fuck that. I'm not. You know what I mean? I let you know what I do when I'm not feeling in a good headspace. I might do additional gratitude journaling. I take ownership of it. I don't blame other people for my stuff, right? And that's another thing, right? Sometimes you feel like a failure because you're like, why did I get born to these parents? I get that. I know. But that's what I'm saying to you is I don't want you to keep looking at things and failure as this awful thing. And if your parents and people and your spouse and your sister and your bestie is trying to make you feel bad and like, I told you so, they are not your people. Boundaries. Yes, your boundaries can come up with your parents, with anyone. If something is not serving your best and highest good, and it is not leading you to where the feeling of joy that you want, it is not for you. You're not obligated. And that's the thing. You have to be okay. And that's a whole different podcast to release that like people pleasing. I promise we'll do a whole podcast on it. But that's the thing. And it's a process. You didn't get here overnight. You're not going to unget here overnight. Lack of patience is always rooted in ego, right? So that's the thing on fear, failure and mistakes. Embrace those. It's showing you something. It's not showing you you're a loser. It's not showing you that you suck. No. It's going, you know what? This might not be the right path for you. Or maybe it is. Maybe you just need to re-educate on certain things, or learn that new software, or go to therapy so you can get your stuff together. So for your next relationship, you feel like you're more secure in yourself, because you should never be secure in a relationship if you're not secure in yourself. That's just, it can't be, right? But don't think that if you're staying in a marriage right now, or you're staying in a job, you're staying in these places because you don't want to feel like a failure, hard pass on that. That's where you want to reevaluate. Because you staying in a marriage or you staying in a job that you absolutely don't like, especially in, let's say, a marriage or a relationship, and you think, well, I'm going to hold on to this because I don't want to hurt the other person, you're already hurting them. Free them up so they can go move on. Now, if your ego says, I don't know if I want to see them with somebody else, that's a you issue. But it's not failing. It is not failing. It's so funny. I did a YouTube on this yesterday. You know, I do my YouTubes Monday through Friday. And I did a YouTube on this yesterday. There's a chapter in my upcoming book that I'm writing on my seasoning salt. Okay, literally, you're like, seasoning salt? Yes, it was Montreal. I showed Montreal chicken seasoning, but my ex-husband and I had like a couple times we had to eat seasoning salt for dinner. Put it on our hand, lick it, and like that was our dinner. Right? So that's my anchor. An anchor is something that you feel is like your lowest space, and then you use that as power. And so I had messaged him yesterday because, you know, my family went to his wedding, and we just have a good relationship. He's in Colorado. And I said, oh my gosh, do you remember eating seasoning salt? And he goes, oh my gosh, albeit it wasn't all the time. I said, exactly. But you know what? I use that as an anchor point, not as a failure point. of like him and I not working, right? We get along fine. He's a better person with her. I'm a better person with Paul. Just is what it is. My feelings aren't hurt. His feelings aren't hurt. We're great. You know what I mean? But we're able to laugh about something, or we're able to pull from it. But it's not a failure because it didn't work. You see what I mean? So that's the whole thing on failure and mistakes. Embrace them. What are they showing you? Not that you're a bad person. If somebody's telling you that you're a bad person because you fail, you want to disconnect from that immediately. Block. Seriously. Okay? So now, one thing that I also want to talk to you about is something that Jen Spicer. So in there, like I said, I had asked in the Patreon Facebook page if, what people are struggling with. So I want to talk to you, and I'm going to highlight Jen here. I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to go into the fear of the unknown. Okay. So she says, "Hi, thanks for asking this. Hope I'm not too late." Nope, you're not too late. "When it comes to failure, I'm grateful I'm able to let go of the idea of perfection. It's taken me some time and a lot of work. It's a daily practice." And she's not lying. It's a daily practice. That's why you need your wellness. You need your gratitude journaling. I have that YouTube on the 5 journals. Go out and look at it. Don't say, "Oh, I want to feel better," and then want the tools, and then not take the tools because you don't like the tools that you're given. And then you keep moving the goalposts and be like, "Well, I don't want to do that." Okay, well, then stay where you are. For her, mistakes, I don't believe are mistakes. I usually make decisions and I either don't care about the consequences or I'm unaware of the consequence at the time, I suppose. And it's true. And I mean, you can't get upset with yourself. You're not supposed to know everything. Now, this is the part that we're going to cover. But when it comes to the unknown, I really spend a lot of time in my own mind in fear still. This fear-based thinking that is still rooted in a religious trauma thinking pattern that I'm unworthy of love, perhaps, or destined for failure. The unknown triggers my need for control, and it's a lot of work and exhausting to pull myself back to the present moment. And for me, it's always gratitude, which is the key. Thank you, Jen, for actually responding to that. It was very helpful. So I want to talk about that. We just talked about the fear place. Fear is fake. Okay. Again, it's not to invalidate your feelings. I have fears of my own. Everybody has certain fears. My fears I try not to let them get the best of me. But they're there, so you acknowledge them. But when it's the unknown, when you can't embrace the unknown, when you feel the need to always need to know what the outcome's going to be, what if this doesn't work? Well, what if this? And it's not like you're going, wow, what if this works? You're not telling yourself that. You're always going down the negative rabbit hole, right? No matter who you are. That's why you have to understand you are in control of nothing but your mindset and the effort you put into something. So you can't be like, "Oh, I don't know. I can never catch a break." Okay, live in your pity party if you want. But if you say you can never catch a break, you're never going to do the work to get there because you're going to tell yourself, well, if I do it, I'm going to fail at it. And by the way, that's a victim-based mentality of circumstance. Not that your situations aren't real, not that your situations don't matter. But if you're constantly living in that woe is me state of being, you will never look for the positive. You will always look to other people to make you feel better. You will become codependent. You will become people-pleasing. You will become angry. You will become defensive. You'll become disappointed. Got to stop with that. We're going to talk about that a little bit on the Patreon on that specific topic. But, I think that's the whole thing, is to understand that what you're fearing, and I want to definitely cover what she said about religious trauma. And if you guys want, I know this automatically goes out on my YouTube like every Sunday. So if you guys want me to go down kind of a whole podcast on religious trauma, what that looks like, and all of that, I absolutely will, because it was a huge thing for me. And if you're unfamiliar with what religious trauma is you guys know I was raised Southern Baptist. I practice Buddhism now, and shamanism and paganism and just a whole bunch of different things. Yes, I believe in God, but not that I have to go to a building to worship and that I have to follow all these specific rules. And it was very, it was funny because I remember, and I'll definitely go deeper into this if you guys want this topic. But one of the big things in being raised in a Southern Baptist thing is that touching your body for pleasure is wrong. Do you know how many people I know have religious trauma because this is a natural, normal bodily response? And if you don't know what you like, how does your partner know what you like? And they're afraid to touch their body for pleasure because they were told it's a sin. I got a problem with that. And that can cause religious trauma. So, and that's just one little like tidbit of that, because it's not wrong. It's your body. Feel your body, know your body, love your body, right? So, but yeah, so that's a whole different topic. But it does go hand in hand with this, because you're worrying about, is this outcome going to be good? Stop. That's control. And control is always rooted in ego. This is the art of staying present. See, when you start spiraling off, when you start going, oh my God, but what if this doesn't work? You're literally allowing your fear to go, hey, see that gold prize there? Oh, what if you fall before you get to that gold prize? There could be like alligators that are going to eat you. What if you can't reach it? What if you fall? What if you drop it? And then you go, okay, I'd rather just not do it. See, the only real failure is not taking the risk, right? And even then, that's not a failure. It's just going to keep you stuck. That's going to keep you stuck. So if you're not willing to embrace the unknown, and the art of staying present isn't just getting up, doing your breathing exercises, doing your journaling, and that's it. You have to always remember the actions of others have nothing to do with you. The opinions of you from others have nothing to do with you. The opinions of yourself have to come from your mindset, not the old voices in your head, which is a process. You could always book a session with me. We can go through it. But it is something to be fully aware of, that when you are trying to control the narrative and know that things are going to automatically work out, like, okay, well, I'm afraid to do this, or what if I do this and it fails? You are literally putting a roadblock right in front of you. And you say, well, how do you do it? You just do it scared. That's how you do it. You embrace the unknown. Guess what? Look how far you've come. Don't act like everything has been hunky-dory. Don't act like it's been pleasurable. And you might be like, yeah, I don't want to do that again. Okay, well, you know what, though? You have more tools this time. So if you're not willing to embrace the unknown for what it is, then you will stay stuck. And it won't, because the fear of the unknown goes hand in hand with failure and mistakes. Because you're like, if I don't do this right, so now this is all, you're writing a storyline like Steven Spielberg in your head, okay? If I don't do this right, I'm going to make a mistake or I'm going to fail at it. You see how all three of them are put together? So you can't do that, because the reality is you're supposed to screw up. You're supposed to screw up frequently. You're supposed to make mistakes multiple times. If you're in fear of disappointing people, letting people down, expecting things out of others, it's not just about other people. I mean, you for other people, you also can't expect things from people. And not in a negative way, like no expectations, no hurt. No. Stop expecting people to make it easier for you to know that you're not going to fail, or to know that you're making the right decision. That is solely your responsibility. Solely. You can ask opinions like, hey, do you like my hair this way or that way? That's fine. But cut your hair if you want. Even if somebody goes, I really like it long. I really like it long. Okay, it was just an opinion. I'll have to listen to you. And this is the important factor, right? With the unknown, think of this. Instead of looking at the unknown as this big, bad, crazy, scary place, like, oh, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, look at it as a place of abundance and opportunity. I just told you there's no failure and mistakes. So if it doesn't work out, cool. You know what doesn't work. Beautiful. Now you're starting to really align. And some of those things may not be that it doesn't work. You might take some of the things from it. So allow yourself to embrace these spaces. Failure and mistakes are beautiful. Instead of saying I'm a horrible human and I suck and I'm stupid and they're going to hate me for this and blah, blah, blah. No. Go, wow, I can pivot from this. What have I learned from this? What opportunity do I have from this? Right? And that's when you drop your ego. See, when you are always, it doesn't matter where it came from, what trauma it came from. When you're always in a space of trying to be perfect, which we, again, know is out of insecurity and doesn't exist, it's always progression, not perfection. And progression means going backwards, going forwards, going backwards, going forwards. Stop thinking that progression and healing is a straight shot. It is not fast. You will fail. You will make mistakes. It is precious. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. If someone doesn't like it, they're not your people. Boundaries, baby. It's okay. And the unknown, when you can go and you get grounded, you put your feet in the sand, you put your feet in the ground, you do your deep breathing. That is actually perfection, because you're staying in, if it existed, and it doesn't, if it did, that's where your perfection would be, in the present moment. Doesn't matter what the outcome is. Your current situation is not your final destination. So stop thinking that. Now, this is all on you. If you choose to stay in the negative mentality, I don't rock with that. I'm not going to deal with you. And it's funny, I had somebody say to me, that's so crazy, because when all your clients come out and everybody who comes to you starts being hella negative, super negative, super woe is me. I said, yeah, here's the difference. They want to feel better, and they're receptive to hearing the tools, and they're willing to use the tools. I'm always going to be there to pick you up. I'm always going to be there to straighten your crown. I'm always going to be there to redirect you a little bit, because you're doing your own work. Now, if you're constantly complaining, I'm giving you tools, and you say the tools are too hard and I don't want to use them, and constantly I can't do this, and then you got to go. We cannot be client. You can't be a client anymore, because if you're not willing to take action and know that, you know what, the healing is hard and it doesn't end. There's no magic healing power that just bam, you're good. It is daily practice, and some of those days is going to be bad. And some of those days are going to be good. And it's okay, because you'll know how to use them. I think it was last week. It might have even been this week, but I know it was last week. It could have been both weeks. Who knows? On my Insta stories, because it's my most favorite place to live, I said, wow, I just was kind of in a blah mood. I felt very irritated. I don't even know why, but so if I didn't know why, I know I needed to sit with it. And I had done gratitude, and I said, you know what? I need more gratitude. I need more time in my gratitude list. Stop, I need to stop being a victim in my own brain, you know what I mean? But allow it to happen. So you don't fight those feelings, right? Go back, listen to the feelings episode on feeling your feelings, allow them a space to process. And I felt so good. Afterwards, I got my toesies in the sand, and I was like, oh, sand. I don't have sand. Toesies outside on the ground. And it was great, because I took ownership of my own mood. I took ownership of my own thoughts and didn't expect anybody to fix it for me or try to overanalyze it. I allowed it to be there. It's not a failure. It's not like, oh, you're balanced. You're supposed to never do that. It says who? You're a human being. Stop making things deeper than they need to be. So just remember, failure, mistakes, gorgeous place. The unknown is this place. It can be anything you want it to be. It really can. And when you embrace all of those things, you know that feeling that you keep seeking? You know that feeling of oh my God, I just want peace. I want abundance. I want that's where that lives. It doesn't live anywhere else. It doesn't. It doesn't live in fear. It doesn't live in fearing of failure and all of those things. Nope, doesn't live there. Where does it live? It lives in the place of accepting that regardless of what happens, there's a lesson, there's a pivot, and there is so much growth for you. Check it out.